everyone. This is State Representative Kate Lipper-Garabedian. Thank you for joining me for a Conversations with Kate. Today, we're going to be talking with some of our leaders here in Melrose who are supporting our veterans community. I'm so pleased to be joined by the new Director of Veteran Services for Melrose, Wakefield, and Saugus, Roseann Trionfi-Mazzuchelli. As someone who has a long last name, I suffered through that. But thank you for being here. We've also got Bob Driscoll, our chair of the Melrose Veterans Advisory Committee, and with him, Advisory Committee member and legislative lead Jim Keane. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So I'm very pleased to be able to share with the community a little bit more about your work and highlight ways people can be involved and seek out resources through your efforts. And pleased also to welcome you, Ro, to Melrose. It's great to meet you.
It's my pleasure. Honor.
Yes, and Bob and Jim, thank you so much for all the work that you've put into bringing me up to speed on many of the efforts that you've been leading both locally and at the state level. I was pleased to file a number of bills with you this year to support our veterans community and our active service members. I thought maybe I'd start with that, just a little bit of update for folks listening about what the House has been working on with respect to veterans. As many of you have heard, perhaps in previous podcasts, we worked a lot on the veterans' homes and rebonding to create a new Holyoke Soldiers' Home. Critically important, a terrible, impact from COVID in that community, and so very pleased that that is moving forward. More recently, just a couple weeks ago, I supported a House bill which passed unanimously, the Act relative to military spouse licensure portability, education, and enrollment of dependents. It looks very closely at ways to support our veterans and active military members and their families. We've got a lot of provisions in there around helping military spouses get licenses more quickly if they move into Massachusetts. We try to expedite in-state tuition for military students or children of military members, as well as expedite K-12 school enrollment for their children. We would direct the Department of Public Health to create an open burn pit registry, recognizing, the serious health impacts of open pit burn pits during overseas deployment, and trying to support our military and veteran members who come back with perhaps impact from that. We have a Massachusetts National Guard family education program to allow National Guard members to transfer their unused education benefits to their dependents. We also would recognize founding anniversaries for all of our, the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the National Guard. So there's a lot in there that I think could be good. One other one that might be of interest to folks is we would allow for the Gaming Commission to issue limited slot machine licenses to veterans organizations, which might be fun for folks here on Main Street. So that's some of what we're working on. I'm hopeful that that bill will get worked through with deliberation with the Senate so we can send something to the governor's desk before the end of the legislative session. And I know that I'll be talking with all of you about what we complete and what still needs to be done in a new legislative session. But now I really want to have a chance to hear a lot more from you for the rest of our time together. And maybe we'll start with you, Ro, and just maybe you can introduce yourself to the community and let us know how you ended up in Melrose.
So I'm very honored to be here. I was working in Winthrop as Veteran Service Officer for a little over 9 years, and I've done all that I could. And Karen Burke, the previous director, approached me and said, "You should apply. The position's open. I'm leaving." And I'm like, I don't know. And she's just apply. So I did. And to my shock, I got it. And I'm so looking forward to this next chapter, the next few years of my life, so I can this is my chance to outreach to even more veterans than outside of Winthrop, East Boston, and Revere, because I had a lot of East Boston veterans come to me and a lot of Revere veterans come to me. So working with the staff, which I never had before, so it's interesting, and try to get the word out there get the benefits that our veterans or the surviving families so deserve.
Absolutely. That's great. I'm glad you're up for the challenge.
I am.
We're glad to have you here. And Bob and Jim, could you talk a little bit about the advisory board and sort of what you all are leading on and how you work and support Ro's office and her work?
Absolutely. So the advisory board was put together by Mayor Dolan in 2005 because he recognized after September 11th and with the wars going in Iraq and Afghanistan that there were going to be a lot of returning veterans from these wars and that we're going to need a lot of services. So Mayor Dolan had the foresight to put together the board. I've been on the board since 2005. So what we do is we work with the veteran service officer. We see what the veterans in our community need, or we try and anticipate their needs, and then we work with the city or outside angels, as I call them, to help us fill those needs for the veterans.
Great. Anything you would add, Jim?
No, some of the things we do is do outreach. We do legislative liaisons, and we just formed a nonprofit corporation in order to take some funding to expand our ability to service the veterans community here in Melrose.
That's great. And you spoke, and I mentioned that you are the legislative liaison for the board.
Yes.
So I remember receiving a lot of great materials from you, and then we even sat down at City Hall to kind of go through the different bills to make sure that I could speak confidently and competently about them with the veterans chairs. And we were able to go and testify at the committee hearing and get favorable reviews, I think, for every bill that you all sent my way.
Yes, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and Senator Jason Lewis for the support you've given our legislation, the veterans legislation. And again, thank you.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. It's a definitely collaborative effort. So if people wanted to be involved on the advisory board, become a member, or support some of your work, how would they learn more about that?
So they can either reach out to Roe at the Veterans Service Office, that's been moved over to the Milano Center, or they can come to our meetings. We usually meet the third Tuesday of every month at 6:30, now in the Milano Center. And we take the months of July and August off, but we'll be starting up again in September, full of energy to start a new year. We over the summer, ask all the members to come up with goals that they want to achieve for the coming year. And we're hoping COVID will be past us enough that we can start up our operation group at the middle school, where we work with the students and get another operation trip to DC for some of our veterans.
Oh, that would be great. How many members are on the board, and how are they selected?
We're a 14-member board. They're vetted through the board and the mayor's office. The mayor is the appointing authority. We do have a few openings, but what we require is people to show up for a year.
Okay.
Because we've had a lot of people come to attend a meeting or two and then disappear. So we're looking for consistency and then dedication to our mission. So we welcome anybody that wants to do that.
I'll be sure to promote that as well when we put out this podcast. One of my first community conversation this year was about lifelong learning, and just trying to inspire people to set goals for the year, ways to have like a holistic year, including through civic participation. So there may be people listening, or certainly we can work to help, build out maybe a deeper bench of people who might be interested in exploring this. Do you need veteran status to be a board member?
No, we do not require that.
Okay.
We have 3 members on the board that are not veterans, but they're supporters of veterans.
Absolutely. So. That's great. So I guess maybe it'd be helpful to hear from you all. How is the veterans community, and I know that's very diverse, but how are we doing after a couple years of a global pandemic? Have there been needs or experiences that have been unique to veterans community, or things that you've been hearing about that are sort of informing the work that's happening right now?
Well, I learned through Winthrop, and I'm sure it's true with most communities, food insecurity. So we have food banks. We have it. I know we have it here. Almost every community has a food bank for veterans and veteran families. But that's not to say that I would ever refuse anybody to come to our food bank, because I never did. And during COVID, it wasn't only once a month. We had it every week. I would get a call from a veteran family who said, "Hey, my dad is not leaving the house. Can you bring a bag of food over?" And we did.
Sure.
We did, because we never said no. And so that's one thing. Also, the PTSD level shot way up. We had a lot of issues with that, a lot of mental health issues, and there's a lot of idleness because people couldn't physically get up and go to work.
Right.
So working from home, it's tough working from home.
Yes,
so
that isolation.
I
Certainly.
personally went to my office every day, even though town hall was closed, because all my files are at the office. So I couldn't work remotely, and I was alone. So I would still bring my veterans in through my door that was closest to my office and take care of their needs and submit them. The frustrating part was dealing with the federal government because they weren't in, or they were only in 25% of the time, and it was very frustrating to try and get those benefits to our veterans or the veteran families.
Yeah, what we tried to do during the COVID pandemic, again, food insecurity was one of the top concerns. So we set up with Shaw's over with Sharon, who's the manager over there, who works with us closely on these things, and we tried to do a food drive. We normally do 2 a year to fill the food pantries here, and so what we came up with was somewhat of a touchless food drive where we would put stuff around. Jim made signs, put them around the store, items that were needed, and then we put baskets out. And some people did go ahead and donate to it. It wasn't as successful as our past food drives, but we were trying to do the best we could under the circumstances.
Right. Innovate because, of safety. That was my sense. I mean, I think Karen was working just like you, Ro, to think about ways to be innovative and support people during a really challenging time. And to that point, so we talked a little bit about how people might be involved in volunteering or serving on the board, but how do members of the veteran community who live in our district contact or reach out, and what kind of services and resources are currently available to them?
So they could call my office, 781-979-4186 or 4187. And I'll stop by. We're on the second floor of the Milano Senior Center, which is an absolutely beautiful place.
Yes, well, welcome, because we just did all those lovely renovations.
It is. I had an old cell, literally an old cell.
Yes.
My old
Oh my
office.
gosh.
I even had the pole. We have a huge, great space to meet with veterans and to talk about their federal benefits or their local benefits. We have a Chapter 115 program, which is a mass general law. We're the only state in the nation that does that. It's for veterans or veteran families, surviving families who are low income. And you have to meet certain criteria. But, and it's just a monthly stipend that they get if they meet, check all the boxes and meet the criteria. So there's lots of benefits out there. You just have to come and ask.
Sure.
And we search for everything. I mean, I've even found scholarships for military kids through different organizations, grants in the past. So whatever the need is, we try to meet it or fill it or exceed it.
That's wonderful.
We also have a fund that is for veterans who have a need, but it can't be filled through federal or state resources.
Okay.
And so we have this fund that people from the community donate to. John Gately does several fundraisers for us. He's marvelous, and he raises money for that fund. So if a vet comes in and our service officer tries to help them, but it doesn't fit in those boxes, we have that fund. So in the past, we've helped with car repairs so a veteran can get to work with their car, helping with a first month's rent or what have you, so they can be get in an apartment and not be homeless. So we are able to set the rules with that fund, and so it's a great
that's really great to know.
resource to have.
And that's separate and from the emergency fund. So this is
Correct.
This is a fund for people who live in Melrose or
For veterans that
in the
live in-
district. Yep. That's great to know. I actually admittedly did not know about that, but that's helpful because as I'm sure all of you have over the last couple of years, heard from a lot of residents who have been struggling with the same things you're talking about, Ro, or just having trouble, paying bills. And so I have directed them to the emergency fund to the degree they live in Melrose. But now that I know that if they're veterans, there may be other resources available. That's really commendable. And I'm thinking also that you're at the Milano Center, which is helpful insofar as Council on Aging now has a social worker.
Yes.
So you were mentioning, it's a great place to be to collaborate and think about, directing people and connecting them to other outside resources.
I met the social worker. She seems like a wonderful person.
Yes, Rachel.
And I know I worked closely with my social worker in Winthrop because my veterans with mental health issues, it was
Right. And actually, to commend Melrose further, we also have a social worker at City Hall.
Yes.
So I'm actually hoping to have both of them as well as a social worker for the police department join me for one of these conversations at some point. So in kind of walking through some of the things that were in the bill that the House just passed and referencing as well the bonding bill that we did for a new Holyoke Soldiers Home, I'm wondering if there are other issues at the legislative level that you want us to be thinking about as state policymakers, including, as we prepare for a new legislative session in January.
Can I jump in on that one?
Absolutely.
In response to Rose's observation about the rise in PTSD amongst veterans and mental health issues amongst veterans, our last legislative submission asked about a diversion program under Chapter 276C of the Mass General Laws. And apparently in my research that has been completely eliminated in a new diversion program under Chapter 276A.
Okay.
But I'd have to say that we'd like to see some changes in that, number one, because a disqualification clause eliminates any veteran that's been convicted of a crime, either in the Commonwealth or out of state, would be disqualified from a diversion into a program. But basically, the crimes that herald a veteran's distress are mental issues, either sometimes abuse and alcohol abuse, sometimes public displays of irrational behavior, and those can lead to a misdemeanor conviction, which will eliminate him or her from these programs. And we'd like to see that corrected and clarified to make these programs available to distressed veterans. So we have a number of other legislative agendas, including the raising the benefit packages under tax breaks for various veterans suffering disabilities from service-connected disabilities, and to it including the award to family survivors of first responders in Massachusetts who do receive a $300,000 grant, but that is not applicable to service members who die on active duty. So these are things that we're going to be resubmitting and asking for new clarification on some existing legislation to expand these rights to needy vets.
That's great. And go ahead.
Oh, the one that is near and dear to my heart, which I've spoke to you many a time, is we've submitted it. I think 4 years going now, and we'll get it passed at some point. But as my job here in the city of Melrose as a firefighter, we respond many times to the various nursing homes in the city, and I can tell you my observation, and is backed up by statistics. Most, I think I read 2 weeks ago, 90% of the nursing homes in the country are not properly staffed, and that's no different here in Melrose. During the COVID operation, I was activated with the National Guard, and I oversaw a task force that we went around the state and we went into nursing homes to work. So our medics on the Army and Air side took over the care of our most vulnerable population, and they did a phenomenal job doing it. So my legislation is to allow these Army and Air medics to sit for the LPN exam based on their past training through the military and their experience. It's a win-win in my mind for the military member, and it's also a win for the nursing homes and the care of our most vulnerable population. So I'll continue to advocate for that.
Right. All of these are great
And
issues.
then I just wanted to bring up on a state level, Mass Department of Veteran Services, we've gone through some major work on the 108 CMR and the Mass General Law Chapter 115 because it hasn't been updated since the 70s.
Okay.
So we've spent the last year updating and going through line by line by line to bring those regs current.
That's great. And it actually sort of dovetails with Bob's point about the
Yes.
LPN
Yes.
and whether or not there
Licenses.
may be an avenue to to make some of those flexibilities possible in regulation. We have to sort of take a look at what the statutes provide right now, and if there's enough discretion for an agency to do that, we could work on a regulatory strategy at the same time we refile that bill. All of the bills and issues that you mentioned, Bob and Jim, I've really appreciated, you teaching me more about them so that we could file them. And I think there's an opportunity this fall, while we prepare for a new legislative session, to even try to get some meetings with, for example, committee staff, to hear a little bit more about, the bill and what we could do to strengthen it or increase its probability in a new session. So let's plan to do that.
I appreciate that.
Maybe we'll wrap up now, but maybe just share with folks if there anything's coming up this summer or fall that you'd want the veterans to know about. Obviously, September you'll be starting up your meetings again. That would be a great opportunity for people to participate and learn more about the board's efforts.
Absolutely, and I think people should come by the Milano Center and introduce themselves to Ro. She's looking forward to meeting all the veterans in the city. One of the things that we're working on that will continue in the fall, besides Veterans Day, is our next memorial at the Knoll. We were very inspired when we had the president of the Boston chapter of the Gold Star family speak at Memorial Day. So we're looking to install a Gold Star family memorial at the Knoll. We're looking at one that was actually in a small town in Maine, and they did a great job. So we took a ride up there, and we took pictures, and we're hoping to duplicate that here in Melrose. So that's our next project that we're hoping to unveil for Memorial Day of 2023.
Well, I look forward to seeing it and being there. That's great. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and I'm really grateful for your service to our community and to our country. You're doing tremendously important work for so many of our neighbors, and it's great to know a little bit more about that and how people can be involved. So thank you again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kate. And thank you for your support.
And thanks everyone for listening to A Conversations with Kate. Be well.